Hello everyone, welcome back to JavaScript crash course. So today we are in lecture 7. So in this lesson we'll be focusing entirely on arrays and methods. So what they are and how to create them and update them, and also how to manipulate them using powerful built-in array method. So mastering arrays is a big step towards writing real-world JavaScript application. So let's dive in. So you will ask, what is an array? An array is a collection of an items of the same data type that are stored in a contiguous um, memory location. So what the key part there is that array is a collection of items of the same data type. So let's look at how we can create our own arrays. So if I open my VS Code and I navigate back to my code here, you see where we left out in function. So I will just comment it out. So that we can start today class. So if I go back here, I just comment it out. So now let's start with today. So today we'll be looking at arrays. So I'll leave that aside. So arrays. So arrays is what we are looking at today. So creating an array. So we want to create an array. What we do, we define constant. I will give it a name. I will say const. Then let's say fruit, for example. Let's give it fruits. So this is how you create an array. You use a bracket, right? So this bracket, you cannot put your items here. So we said fruit. So the first one, let's give it apple. So comma. So second, let's give it banana, right? Banana. Okay. So third, let's give it cherry. So don't forget to put this quotation. So I'll say cherry. So now we have 3 items here. So I can close. Now accessing an array. So the first one is that we created an array. So I'll say create array, right? So now the second one is accessing array. Accessing array. So to access an array, let me say console.log to print to the console. So I'll say fruit. You have to call the array name fruit. Then an array has an index. So the first items will be on index 0. The second items will be on index 1. Then the third items will be on index 2, right? So now to access an array, you pass in the index. So here, if I want to pick the array of the first item, I use index 0. So I say 0. Now I'll console log this one. Then let's have a look. So if I save now, let me have it save. I say Ctrl S. I save. Then let me run. I'll open this HTML file that I have here. Since we have this HTML file in our first project, so I will just run it, go live. So if I open this, so this should open in our browser. So if I come here now and I inspect, if I inspect here, that should give us the console, right? So I go to console. So now you will see I have Apple, right? So now I have Apple at here. So that means we're able to print our index, right? So now the first items. Now let's print the second item. I say console.log. Then I'll give in fruits as the array. Then index 1. So second item will be at index 1, right? So that I can save. Oh, Ctrl S, save. Then I can go back to my browser, right? So Ctrl S, I save. Then I can go back to my browser. Oh, okay. I have my browser here. Then I'll inspect. Should see. All right. So that should give me. Okay. We have apple. So we are expecting. All right. Fruit. We should get apple. Then banana. We should get banana if everything is loaded correctly. So let's go back and see why we are not seeing banana. So we should see banana here. So let me refresh. So yeah, we should have banana here. I'm not sure what this. Okay, yeah, perfect. So now we should have banana. So banana here, right? So now, okay, that's it. That's how you can access an array, right? So you use the index to access an array. So now let's update an array. Update array. So to update an array, what we do is to also call the variable of the array here. Then we have to access the individual array that we want to update. Remember, the index is used for accessing, right? So I will say, let's say I want to change banana. So banana is in index 1, right? I'll say it's not equals to the assignment operator. Then I'll say, okay, banana is not equals to maybe mango, right? So if I save now, you will see that banana in this array should be replaced to mango. So if I come back here and I say console.log, then I pass in fruit. That means I want to console log everything on the array, which is this, right? I want to console log everything. So if I save now, Control S, so this should save, and I go to my browser here and I refresh here, you see, I have now apple, mango, and cherry. Now, there's no longer banana because I've updated it, I've changed it. So this is how you change uh, or update an array, right? So you can also use this to also add items to an array. So I have the last item here now is at index 2. So if I want to add another one to this, I will say fruit, fruit, then I'll say index 3, then I want to give it, um, let's say pineapple, right? So I want to give it pineapple, right? So if I do this and I save, uh, if I do this and I save, Ctrl S, then I'll go back to my browser. So now if I refresh, this should give me pineapple, right? Okay, so you see you can use it to add to your array as well. Alright, so that's it. So let's look at the length. How do we know the numbers of items in an array? So we can use the the length, the length um, attribute or function. So we can use the length to actually get the total numbers of the array. So what we do, we say console.log, then we use the fruits dot length. So if we use fruit dot length, will give us the total number of items in the array. So if I save this now and I go back and I refresh, I see here, so I have 4 items, right? So that is for length. Now let's look at adding an array. I've already spoken about adding an array just now. So I added this manually specifying the index, right? So you can also add, so adding an array, adding an item, and items to an array, right? To an array. So what you can do, many ways to do this. You can manually assign the index here, like as I did here, or you can use the push method. So I'll say fruits dot push. So push will push an item to the front. So it add it to the end, at the end of the array, right? If I say orange, so I say orange. So it will add this orange to the end. So I say push. If I come here now and say console.log, you'll see what happened now. If I console.log fruits, now we should see that orange has now been added to the end of the array. So if I say save, if I go back here and I refresh, so refresh. So if I refresh here, let's now refresh. You see now I now have orange to that is added to the end, right? So now the same thing you can do with there's another one called shift. So if I want to add item to the first before this apple here, the item will be at the first. So I use shift. I will say fruit dot shift. So if I say shift, I want to add items to the first. So I will say, all right, here I will say, let's say kiki or kiwi, for example, and I say okay. Here we add, let me just write something, add to the start. So this will add to the start or the first, right? So if I do this and I say, and I come here and say console.log. So if I say console.log and I pass in fruit, I pass in fruits like this. So if I do this and I save, this should save, give us fruit, right? Okay, look like I might have typed something else here. So save. So if I refresh now, okay, refresh. So you see, if I refresh let me refresh. So I have here mango, cherry, pineapple, and orange, right? So let's see what happened. All right. I'm not sure what okay. Sorry. Shift is removing. I'm not removing. Is on shift. So on shift is to add to the start. So shift is to remove from the start. So if I refresh now, you see I have Kiki added to the start of the array, right? So now that is it for adding. Then for removing from array, what you can do is, okay, let's say remove items. So to remove items, you can use pop. I'll say fruits dot pop. So if you use pop will remove the last item. So remove last item. So pop will remove last item. So if I come here, I say console.log. So I'll say fruits. I say fruit now. So I save. So you see now, if I refresh, you see here orange is gone. Now and I have kiki, apple, mango, cherry, and pineapple. Now there's no orange. It's now remaining 6 items. So if I want to remove an items, if I want to remove an item from the first element, so you can remove an item from the first element uh, using fruits dot shift. So if I say shift, so this will remove an item from uh, the first in the array. First, we remove the first element in the array, right? So if I save like this and I go back and I refresh here, refresh. So this should remove Kiki, right? So where is the first here? Is it Kiki? So this you remove that. Shift. Sorry, I made mistake. So shift, I'm not supposed to pass anything. As a console dot log. So here I'll just say fruits, right? So this should remove the first element from the array, right? So you see now, Kiki is now gone, right? So now we now have 4 items. So there's another one, another way you could remove element from the array with a specific index. So here you can use what they call okay, I'll say fruit dot splice. So this splice is used to remove item from array. So you will specify where you want to remove from. So I'll say okay, remove the second one. So the second one is 1, right? So the index of the second item is 1. Then I'll say okay, it's just 1 you should remove. So the other one should be the numbers of items you want to delete. So I'll say just remove only 1. So I'll save it like this. So if I do this and I console.log, okay, log. So this should remove, uh, so I'll say fruits. So you see now that if I do this and I save, so this should remove the items that is at index 1, right? So if I save this and I go back and I refresh here, so you see mango is gone, right? Because mango is the items at index 1. Remember, items start at index 0, index 1 in the second items, right? So that is it for arrays. So now let's look at the methods in arrays. So I'll say method. So let's go methods. So there are different methods in arrays. So let's look at looping through an array. So we can use a for loop, for each. Let's look at for each. For each. So for each, we can say fruits dot for each. We can say for each. So here you have the callback, which will take a fruit, then no fruit, and then okay, arrow function, the fruit, and index. So you can also pass in an index as well if you want. So but that is optional, right? So it will take a fruit and an index. So here I can write it in one line if I want, or I can just bring it down and say console.log. I want to print each, right? So I'll just pass in fruit. So fruit will be here. I can as well pass in the index first. So let's just do fruit. So I say here and save. So if I save this will look through the items and print me all the items inside, right? So if I do this, I go back and I refresh. Now I have 3 items, right? So I have apple, cherry, and pineapple, right? So you can also print in the index as well. So I can pass in index here. So index. So I can concatenate this and say okay, double quotation plus for concatenation and say plus again. So I say okay, I want it to have or let me put it like this. So space. So here and then index, right? I save this now, so I should be able to get the index. So we are index 0 will give you apple, index 1 will give you cherry, and index 2 will give you pineapple, right? So that is the for each function in method in array. So let's look at map. So map is used to return a new item. So map is used, you can use map to update, then you return a new arrays. Are you getting it? So map will not change the original array, it will return you a new array. So now let's do that. So for map, let's look at for examples. So we want to, let's say we want to transform all the items in this array, we want to turn them to capital letter, right? So we can then use map. So talking about map here. So what I will do, I'll say okay. Now I say constant. Let's just call the array fruits fruit upper. So now I know that we want to turn the fruit to uppercase, right? So I will now say is equals to fruits dot map. So now map can also take two arguments. So one is the items you are mapping. So I say fruit. So I say fruit. And the other is the index. So let's not worry about the index now. So let's just use the fruit. Okay. So I'll say fruit. Now I'll have this and then this. So we can write this in one line in JavaScript, it will work, but let's just write in the normal line, right? So you can do this in multiple ways. So here you can just say here we want to return upper case, right? So here what I will do is to do this. I'll say fruit dot upper case. So to upper case, if I do this, it should work. So I can use, since I'm using this here, I have to use the return, right? So return we do this. Once we do this return, we do this. Then here we just console.log. So console.log fruit to uppercase. So if we have fruit to uppercase now, we have not changed our arrays to uppercases, right? If I save, so we should get an array with fruit of uppercases. Are you seeing it? So we now have apple, cherry, pineapple. They are all in uppercase now. So that is what map is. We use map a lot in React, so it's very important. So let's look at another function called filter. So get items based on conditions. So filter is used to get an item based on conditions. So let's have filter. So here we will say, let's say we want to find uh, uh, or we want to filter out an items that are let's say we want to filter out items that start with only A, right? So let's do something like this. I'll say uh, there are many ways to do this. I can say uh, name, or I can say let's filter out items that have character of more than five letter, right? If we have to, so let's filter that. So I will just say long name constant long name name so long name is not equals to, so I will say fruits. So I want to filter the fruits that have filter. So I want to filter the fruit that has so filter returns uh, okay, to return an arrays. So we want to filter characters that has a fruit that has more than 5 characters. So I'll say fruit. So fruit. If the fruit is, so also like this. So fruit. If fruit fruit dot length and length is greater than 5. So if we have the characters of fruit is greater, so we can write it in one line like this. So we want to return this, right? So that is like this. So we can write this in one line instead of using it this way. So we can just write it in one line. So return. So here we now console.log, also.log long name. So we return any of the arrays that has long name greater than 5. Any items of the food that is greater than 5. So if I save now and I refresh here, so you see I have cherry and pineapple. Now we no longer have apple here anymore because apple is just 5 later. Now we are saying any of the characters that are greater than 5, right? So now if I come here and say okay, any of the characters that are less than 5, less than or equals to 5, let's say less than equals to 5, so we should only get apple, right? So now I have only apple. So this is how you can filter items. Remember, filter will return an array, right? Okay, that's it. So let's look at find. Let's look at find. There's another one built-in function called find. Let's look at find. Find will return the first item. Like filter will return all of them that match, but find will return just the first one that match. So let's say constant. Let's look for item. Let's say constant found. So I'll say equals to, I'll say fruits dot find. I'll say find. So in this fruit we want to find anything that starts with, so any fruit, I say fruit. So uh, any fruit that starts with start with. So start with, let's say, what are all our fruits? Not sure. Okay, we have mango. Okay, let's see any fruit that starts with C. So let's say, oh, see, we only have one fruit that starts with C, right? So we want to return any fruit that starts with C, right? So we do this. Then let's console.log found, right? So the log found. So console.log. So the log we put in found. So let's see if we get any fruit that starts with C. So if I save this, you see we got cherry. So you see the difference. Arrays return filter returns an arrays of the filter, right? So while find we just return a string, right? So now you get here I have uh, cherry because it's returning just one items. So alright, it will return just the item that it found. So that is what found is here. So that is how you can use find. So the last one we'll look at is reduce. That's one of the last functions that are most common in uh, arrays. So we have reduce. So reduce is mostly used for calculation, but you can use it for other things. Let's say for example I have an array constant, so I'll just say numbers. So numbers, I'll say I have numbers of, let's say 2, 5, 6, and 9, right? So let's say I want to calculate the total, right? So I can simply use reduce. I say const sum. So I'll say numbers dot reduce. So I'll say reduce function. So reduce take the initial. So the first one, that the previous and the current. So I'll say current, and then so we have previous. I call this one previous. And I have, oh, it's not what I want to type. So previous. Okay, okay, let me just, if this is getting auto, so I say previous and current. So this is what it takes. it takes these two, so we have previous and current. So here, what I will do here, you see, this is what it takes. Then it also take initials, so the initial value, so you have to give it an initial value. So here, if I say previous, it means now we say that we are starting at 2, right? So the previous value here now, we start from the initials. So if I give it initial is 0, now what I can do here is the previous value, the value of the previous here will be 0 plus 2, right? So if I have previous, will now be like this 0 that I have, then plus, if I want to do addition, plus the current. So the current here will be 2, right? The previous is 0, right? Because we are starting at the beginning, 0, and the current is 2, right? So this one. So it will be 2. So I'll say AC plus current. So we have current, you see. So this should do our work. So what will happen now, this will run. So it will calculate and add it here. So it will run again and say, okay, what is the previous year now will be what we have here. Then plus the current one, right? So this side will go. The previous again will take what we have here, then plus the current one. That is how it will count until it's finished. So if I save here, I say console dot log. If I say log and then I pass some. So if I save it, this should give me the total, right? So if I have here now, you see, I have 24 as total. So if I go back and say, let's change this to not start from 0, let's say start from 5. So this should give us a different answer entirely. So total should be, I see now we now have 29 because it's not starting from 0 anymore. So it will be 5 as the previous, then plus 2 as the current. Then we add that one and then have that is it will now be 7 plus 5. Then it will now be the amount, then like that and like that. Okay, with this we have come to the end of arrays. So arrays are other lists of values. So you can add, remove, update items dynamically. So we have master, map, filter, find, reduce, and also we look at forEach for creating. So for in your own task, you should create an array of number. Use map to get the square root. Okay. So also use filter to get those that are greater than 10 also, and reduce to calculate the array total. So do that as your own assignment. So please remember to share your answer on the comment section and also subscribe and make sure you like. So I'll see you in the next lesson. So all right, so thank you. I'll see you in the next lesson.